Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. Going down memory lane to places I really don't want to go. So if you like this video, if you find it entertaining, enlightening, educational, please like and subscribe. So, abusive relationships. I've been in a few, but I would have to say that there's one in particular that really stands out. And this was probably my first, I would say, serious relationship after my divorce. Of course it would be. Why wouldn't it be? It was one of those moments where it's like, I should have just stayed single. What was I thinking? So I was going to, first of all, I was working on myself, right? So I'm basically like paying off bills and debts, and I'm working out and hadn't started writing yet. Uh, and I was like, maybe what I need is some enlightenment. I'll put it that way, okay? So I started looking more into Buddhism. Yes, I would say I was a Buddhist for a while. And so what ended up happening was I found this local, I, I guess you could call it a temple. It was a place where they had this meditation class. So there's this Zen Buddhist priest that every once a week you could go. It was like an hour, hour and a half, and he would help guide you through this meditation, right? And it wasn't a very popular thing. So it was usually me and maybe like one or two other people. And this went on for a little bit, and I was going and I was thinking like maybe I was getting somewhere with this, but I think overall it was just kind of a stress reducer. It was relearning how to like focus my mind on things aside from like the bullshit that I was going through. It was kind of like a retreat in a way. And all I had to do was donate a couple bucks here and there, and uh, it helped me out a lot until it didn't. so so this other person started showing up. This woman started showing up, and she was bringing this baby with her. And for 6 months, it was basically like me and her consistently going to this thing. And so, of course, after after that period of time, it was like, well, I don't know. The worst thing she can say is no, and if she says no, then I was kind of done with the whole meditation thing, anyways. Like I knew I could just, if I wanted to, go home, sit on a cushion or whatever, and just I didn't have to go anywhere, right? So I end up asking her out. She says yes, and she's like basically telling me that she had hoped that I was gonna do that like weeks earlier. But no, I'm like, I didn't want to ruin this thing that I was going to by being that guy. And so we started seeing each other. And at first, it was pretty cool. Like, she was interesting, she was fun to talk to, she had lived a couple different places. I think she lived in like Phoenix and Seattle. Like she had after high school, she kind of moved around, and she was a little bit younger than me too. So I just found it interesting that somebody straight out of high school just immediately starts going to all these different places, and she had gone to this college where the curriculum was just reading the great books, which That's a list that, if you look it up, there's several lists of the great books. And it all depends on what great books and who considers them to be so great. And so she went to this college, and I started thinking, like, so why are you here? Why are you, like, unemployed? Like, things kind of sort of didn't add up. And the baby. So she has this baby, and apparently she had gotten pregnant from a roommate, and she was explaining it as, well, he's just a big piece of crap, so he doesn't have any parental rights, yada, yada, yada. I'm sure I don't have all of that story. But after she had the kid, she ended up coming back to live with her parents. Financial help with them and the kid. Plus, her mom ran some type of Montessori school. So I think overall she was just looking at it as, like, I can get back on my feet. What I didn't know was that she had a history of mental illness, bipolar and paranoid schizophrenia. And so all the good time that we were spending together, we're getting to know each other, and things were just, cruising along. That's because she was on her meds, and her parents were making sure that she was taking her meds. And then we started seeing each other, and she stayed on them for a while. And then for some reason, she wanted to go off of them. I don't like how they make me feel. And these were some of the things that I heard later, way later, right? And every time I would see her, there was like this switch that was flipped, and what ended up happening was that she just went off her meds. And there's one day I went to go see her, and she wasn't there, and her parents just kind of like had this wandering look in their face, like they didn't know what to tell me. The baby was there, her car was there, and I had been working a lot, and I had things to do at my house, so it had been a few days since I had seen her, and all of a sudden she's just not there. And they had to have somebody come out and take her away to the happy place because she was refusing to eat. She would just sit there and like stare at a wall. Voices were telling her not to interact with her parents because they're evil and didn't have her best interest at heart. So during this time that she wasn't taking her meds, every time I saw her, it was chaos. It was pure chaos. It was belittling and just any excuse she could find out of thin air to start a fight, she would grasp onto. And I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? There's one day I come back from like using the bathroom or something, and she's on my phone, and she's like, hey, you said this thing to this girl that you work with. And I'm like, I'm thinking at first, like, when was this? And I look at it, and it was from like a year before I had even met her, right? And it was this funny workplace banter between me and this woman that I work with at the hospital, and she was getting all pissed off that I was flirting with her, and it's like, this is before you. Like, you didn't exist when this happened. Like, what? Why are you on my phone? Meanwhile, I would see her on the computer messaging people on Facebook, ex-boyfriends from years prior, asking how they were doing and what they were up to. Another red flag. You're not the one. Apparently she was shopping around, and I'm just like, So let me get this straight. Like at this point, her kid is calling me dada. We're spending all this time together. And every time every time we would get into these fights, she would start these fights, and it was always instigated by her. So she would start these fights, and she'd get to this point where she was just like, "Well, if you don't like it, then me and the baby can be out of your life." And she would always throw that in. Like she knew that I had an attachment to the kid, which like the first time she did it, it pissed me off. I was like, "Wait, you're using your kid as a weapon against me? Like, are you serious?" Because like at this point, most guys wouldn't have stuck around, right? So she's doing that, and then there was this one crazy ass day. So she's over at my house, and she's trying to start this fight with me. And I'm like looking at the clock, and I have to be at work in like 40 minutes, right? And her car's parked behind mine, and she's trying to pick this fight, and I'm like, "I'm not doing this with you. Like, you can leave." And she's like, "I'm not leaving. We're taking care of this." I'm like, "There's nothing to take care of. Like, this is bullshit. It's all in your fucking head. You need to like move your car so I can go to work." And she's like, "No, you're staying here." And it was all these fucking controlling measures. It was insane. So at one point, I just grabbed my stuff. I grabbed some stuff for lunch, and I just book it out the door because I was within walking distance of work. I started walking to work. And I'm like halfway to work on Portage Road, a busy road, and I'm on the sidewalk, and she pulls up next to me and starts yelling at me from the car with the baby in the back seat. And there's cars behind her honking the horn like, "What the are you doing? Like, move your car, lady." And I'm like, and I'm just standing there dumbfounded because I had never been in this type of situation before. Like I have heard and seen other people engage in this behavior, and it was usually drug addicts and crackheads. But this was new to me. I'd never experienced this, and I'm just like, "What the are you doing? Like, get out of here. I have to go to work. I have bills to pay. Like, you're not messing this up for me." And so eventually she ends up leaving, and she like takes her shit and she goes to her parents' house. And there's this one day. So I'm at my house, and she comes over, and she starts trying to pick this fight with me. And it was just out of nowhere. And I just looked at her straight in the face, and I was just like, "I am not doing this." And she just kind of like was taken aback, and she was like, "Oh, oh shit." Because I wasn't playing along, I wasn't arguing back. I just gave her this very stern, like, "No, this is not happening today at all. Like, you can either enjoy being here and make my life pleasant, or you can get the out." And so I go into the kitchen because I had stuff to do, and I started like cleaning some dishes and whatnot. And she walks up behind me, and she's like, she starts saying some things to me, acting like nothing had happened. And I was just like, "Yeah, I can't do this relationship anymore." She's like, "What? Oh, you want me and the kid to leave?" And I said, "Yes." And she's like, "You're kicking my kid out?" And it, instant switch, right? And I said, "Yes." And she's like, "You're kicking my kid out?" And I'm like, "It's not my kid." And that was another thing she would constantly say to me. It's like, "She's not your kid. She's not your kid." And I'm like, and she made it very, very obvious to me, like this was always going to be used against me. Is the fact that she's not really my kid, right? Even though she's running around, she's only known me. She's calling me dada. And that was something that even her mom, like when we broke up, her mom was like, "How can you just abandon her like that?" And I'm like, "Your daughter did this to herself." And the dad knew. I ended up having, I liked her dad. Her dad was really cool. And there was one day he came over because she left some shit at my house and he came over to get it. And we ended up talking for like 2 hours outside. And he was just like, I totally understand, we were just hoping that, with her being in a decent relationship, that she would decide to take care of herself, which was, it was understandable with them because they were older. They were an older couple, like they were in their retirement. Their daughter was still, she was still in her 20s. So, like, they're looking at the end portion of their life, and there's this kid that just keeps fucking up and can't even stay in a relationship for her own good. But the mental abuse with it was just horrific. It was horrible. And God, there were times where it was just like, yeah, I don't know what happened to the person that you were. Like, where did that person go? They existed somewhere, or was it all just an act? And I think with a lot of relationships like that, it's an act to hook you in, and then you start seeing their true face. And when that starts showing up, run. Get out. Because, man, it was like 3 months of hell. Like, I saw her for like 6 months. The first 3 months were cool. Like, we did a lot. We hung out a lot. It was fun. It was, you know, I enjoyed her company. And then the last 3 months, I was like, I don't know who the blank this is. This is insane. Yeah, the last time I saw her it was years after it was after my daughter was born. So this would have been like 6, 7 years later, and I saw her on the mall downtown Kalamazoo, and she was at this picnic table, and there was this woman with a clipboard, and her daughter was there. And her daughter was older, but like it was very obvious who it was. And she's sitting there, and then she would get up and she would kind of wander around, and she would do this like weird thing. She had these like, if she wasn't on her meds, she had these like habits that she would do, and these weird ticks. So I could tell that she wasn't doing good. She definitely wasn't taking her meds. And I'm like, holy shit, she's having uh, God, what do they call that? It's a visitation, but it's a visitation where somebody has to be there in order for her to see her kid. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, yeah, she never really intended on getting out of rock bottom. Like, I don't think there was that notion in her mind to like ever really mental illness. It's like once it's there, yeah, there's meds, but that's not taking care of it, especially when the state is like, well, they can decide or they're able to take it on their own. No. No. All it takes is like that one little moment where the voice is like, "Don't take this. I trust you." And then it's all downhill from there. So yeah, she was having a supervised visit with her daughter. And last I knew, her parents were raising her kid because she wasn't able to do it. So yeah, not even like if you thought this was about a narcissist or somebody that's just very controlling or no. This was something totally different. Yeah, when you come home and they're just yelling random shit at you for like no reason whatsoever, none of it's justified, but you're the piece of shit. Get out. Keep on typing.